Still good morning. I'm Cynthia Phillips, president of Tri-City Branch NAACP, and we cover the area of Fairfield, Suisun, and Vacaville. And on the behalf of the California Democratic Party African American Caucus and Tri-City Branch NAACP and St. Stephen's CME Church, we want to welcome you. And to our candidates, we really appreciate you coming, and we wish you much success. And to our community, we really appreciate your coming, and maybe you'll be the vehicle that will be able to take some of the information out to our community and let our voting community know what it is that our candidates are offering and what it is that will best serve our community. And to Mrs. Huffman, Madam President of our California State Conference, NAACP, and her assistants, Executive Director, CEO. I apologize. Welcome and thank you.
I'd now like to introduce the forum moderator. The forum moderator is the president of the California State Conference of the NAACP. She is also on the executive board of the California Democratic Party, and she is a fellow member of the California Democratic Party African American Caucus. She is a giant, and I'm happy to have Ms. Alice Huffman here. Please come on up, Ms. Huffman.
That's pretty good, Mr. Phillips. That giant, does that mean I need to lose weight? I don't feel like a giant this morning. I feel like one of you. Just glad to be alive, glad to be here, and glad to see the branch and the party and the church coming together to enlighten our community on something as important as elections. And as you know, the NAACP is not a partisan organization. They like to say, de facto, we're a Democrat. We are partial to people who do the civil rights work. Usually, it's more Democrats who do that than Republicans. But for others in the room who might be a Republican and wondering why I'm standing up here, I am also a Democrat. I am a member of the California Democratic apparatus. I'm on the E-board. I am a member of the Democratic National Committee. And so I couldn't take that D out of my name if I wanted to, because it's all over the place and has been for 40 years. And so I'm glad that we have candidates who think enough of the community and the NAACP to spend your time with us. And I hope when we have finished this forum that you will be enlightened enough to make decisions about who will best carry out the work that we try to get done in this community. That's what this is all about. So thank you all for being here. And I understand that we had a number drawing. Have we had a number drawing? Are we going to have it? Mister? Take a number. They're going to make opening statements according to the number that they've drawn, and then they will make closing statements in reverse. So if you have 1 through 6, when it's closing time, I hope you can count backwards. All right? So you have a 2-minute opening statement. Oh, let me introduce my CEO, my executive, new to California, new to the state conference, Mr. Robert Rooks. I see one of my officers out there, Dolores Edwards, who used to be the branch president of this branch and who is now on the executive committee. is the area director. And having done protocol, my good president here, who's worked so hard to try to keep this branch viable. Are we okay? Okay. All right. Ready? The timer? You need help with the time? Okay. So you have a 2-minute, do you have warnings for when they're almost?
So we have a 30-second, 15-second, and then stop.
Okay? So you have to look at him a little bit to keep on time. So the way this form is going to work, you will get to make your 2-minute opening statement, you'll get to make your 2-minute closing statement, and then you'll get to answer a question that I'm going to ask, and you are not all going to answer the same question. They are? You want all of them to get the same question? Okay. So you only get 1 minute on the questions. So we'll get a chance to see how specific you can be and how timely you can be, because it all goes with whether or not you can do the job. If we have to call time on you, stop. If you don't stop, we'll just go roll right over you and call on the next person, okay? So I hope we don't have to do that, because we want everybody to have an equal opportunity. Okay, so who is number one? I can't see the names, unfortunately. You know what? I don't have the names.
I'm sorry, Mike Hudson.
Mike, okay, Mr. Hudson, your time.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Mike Hudson. I'm Vice Mayor of the City of Suisun City. Thank you so much for having me here today. I've got to tell you, I'm very pleased to be here. It's a beautiful morning. My candidacy is all about people, and it's all about reaching out to connect with the right people. You know, there's a lot of problems in Sacramento right now. We're seeing those trickle down to our cities. We're seeing those in services. We're seeing our schools having problems. And it's time that Sacramento got fixed. But the only way we can fix it, and it's an arrogant statement to say that I'm going to fix Sacramento. But you know what? The way we fix Sacramento is together. Thank you.
Number two.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Hernandez. I live in Rio Vista, California. And I got into this race because I don't hold political office. My background is I grew up in San Bernardino, and my parents are legal immigrants. I was born here in the United States, and so was my brother. They instilled in us hard work and dedication. Neither one of them received any formal education. So when they came to this country, they were basically illiterate. And they didn't speak any English, but they had the courage and the ambition to get a better life, the American dream. And my brother and I worked very hard to do that. So we tried to work ourselves out of poverty through education. I ended up going to UCLA undergrad, and then I came here to Northern California to attend law school. And during that process, what was ringing true to me and to many other people in the same situation as myself is that education is the great equalizer. And in this race, when the candidates got in, I didn't hear that they were connecting with the struggles that everyday working people have. You know, my husband, he's in law enforcement, and I work in Oakland. I commute 4 hours a day. My son has to go to school an hour away from home because there is no extended daycare. And I felt that politicians are so out of touch with reality nowadays. They don't know the struggles of working middle-class families, and we needed to have someone that was going to represent regular people. This was a big decision for me. I have a 5-year-old. And I did it because I want us to have a voice in Sacramento. And I want us to be represented properly, and I don't want this to just be another politician getting into office. Thank you.
Number three.
My name is Lynn Augustine, and I am...
Can you all hear him back there?
Can you hear me? This microphone may not be strong. Okay, well, I'm Lynn Augustine. I'm a candidate for the 11th District Assembly. And I came to California here at Travis Air Force Base in 1975 as a member of the United States Air Force. I have a 28-year Air Force career. Started out in life as in a poor family. My dad was a coal miner, and he passed away when I was just 8 years old. My mom worked 3 jobs to get me an education. Education is, as was already said, but I will say it again, is a great equalizer. It gives you the opportunity to do things if you really pursue it. I've also been involved very actively in Vacaville with politics, being a mayor of that city for 8 years, and also on the Planning Commission for the first 4 years, chairman of that, many leadership positions throughout the state and through Solano County here particularly. We are in a system right now that's broke. At the state level and at the federal level, there are unfortunately partisan politics at work, which prevents people from working together. I think there's a place for everybody to work together, particularly in education. The trade unions need to be involved in the training of people, preparing for new jobs. If they're lost the old ones, they sometimes aren't prepared for the new ones. And so I ask that you support a candidate who has a lot of experience with a lot of organizations. And if that's the case, I think you'll find that you'll have somebody qualified to go. Experience in many areas, in our transportation system. And in, well, for example, there's a ballot measure right now to support the libraries, and I hope you'll all support that as well. That's a very important part of the education process and gives people the opportunity to learn. And so thank you again for inviting me here, and I wish you'll support me, Bob.
Thank you. Number 4?
Good morning. My name's Gene Gant, and it's a privilege to be here today. I've been real excited about what I'm hopefully going to be able to do for you. I got into this race for one specific reason. I got into this race is for people. I spent 35 years my career was in the fire service. I was a public employee. My whole purpose in my life has been giving to people, doing for people, and being there for people, and I wanted to continue that. I'd like to also introduce Ann with Measure L. It's Measure B, as she would say, from 14 years ago, and also Skip Thompson, who's running for supervisor. People you need to get behind, you need to know before you leave here today. Make sure you shake their hands and talk to them. I'm in this race to make a difference in Sacramento. Part of my life has been in Sacramento. I was the legislative director of the California Fire Chiefs. I have actually been to Sacramento. I have worked Sacramento. I have bills that I have written, worked on, and passed. And these bills have nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with the fire service that I was involved with. It had to do with the people of California. Fire safety issues dealing with emergency medical services, issues getting medical care to indigent people, getting medical care to those people who can't take care of themselves. And I want to continue on with this. This is something that's extremely important to me. Another issue that got me into this race is the Bay. The Bay Delta is extremely important to me. As somebody who grew up in this area, has been here since 1957, raised here, raised my children here. This is a very important race. This is a very important district, and I look forward to the questions and having your support. Thank you.
We are moving to number 5.
Good morning. Often we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. We currently are in the midst of a time where connecting to a common purpose is not only applicable, but is now probable. With the internet, with the connecting of here, of going to church, of worshiping, of having this community, the only part that we have been a little bit disconnected with is with government. Our forefathers have put place in our Constitution that participation is necessary. In order to make changes, just like going to church on a weekly basis, we need to go to our Parks and Rec. We need to go to our planning commissions, and we need to go to our city council meetings so that we are informed remain informed, and we can also talk about our grievances, the things that are positively happening in our community, but we need to attend so that the city council members know that we are engaged. Our forefathers fought really hard to put this implementation in, and that's called the checks and balances of government. And there's only one body that can do that, and that is us, the community. We are the checks and balances. And in order to move forward, we have to be engaged, just like we're engaged when we come to church. We come to church because of a community, because we want to participate in the wisdom of God. We need to make that bridge over into government to realize that we are the community. I am a father. I have 2 children who are drug-free that have gone to college. It's not an easy job, but it's a job that I participated in a daily basis. Thank you for your time and patience.
Okay, and our final opening statement.
Good morning,
Number
Mike.
6.
I beg your pardon. Good morning. My name is Jim Frazier. I am the only Democratic State Party endorsed at this table and endorsed by all the central committees and clubs in Solano and Contra Costa County and for the Democratic Party. I've led by example, walk the walk and talk the talk, with protecting our social safety net in the city of Oakley and Contra Costa County. I started a program, You, Me, We Oakley program, encouraging and welcoming cultural diversity. And I brought programs to our city to embrace diversity. I also brought the only clinic. Oakley didn't have a doctor. And so La Clinica La Raza approached me after 5 years of trying to get a foothold in our city, and I embraced that cause and helped them receive $1 million in startup money. And now, I'm proud to say, in December, we opened that clinic with 9 beautiful state-of-the-art examining rooms with doctors and nurses. And very proud of that we're helping the disadvantaged in our community who used to have to take a 2-hour bus ride to county hospital to seek services. Also, I'm very proud to say that I'm a founder of a nonprofit in my community called the Friends of Oakley to provide a conduit for the disadvantaged in our city. Anybody can come to that community foundation and receive help. And so I've walked the walk, I've talked the talk. I'm not what I want to do, it's what I've done and want to continue to do for the constituents of both counties and, well, actually 3 counties. But this is what I've done. Former Citizen of the Year for my community. I've been recognized by my citizens that I have been a factor in the community. And I do want to say that I am endorsed by all the federal and state legislative electeds in this area, and I just really wish for your support. Thank you so much.
Well, let's thank them for their opening statements. You know, all of you all can't get the endorsement, and all of y'all ain't gonna make it, because there's only one position, and how many of you running for the same position? But it's noble to run. It's important to run. It's important for people to have a choice. And so I want to commend you for trying to make democracy work. And of course, I congratulate all of you. I have the task here of asking you, it was going to be 11 questions, but it's really 10 because you answered the first one, why you wanted to go. And if you didn't, you can answer that in your closing, why you want to be an assembly person. You kind of answered that, number 1. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to try asking you the same question. First, I'm going to go down that way, then I'm going to come back this way, then I'm going to try to start in the middle some kind of way so that everybody doesn't get to always speak first and always speak last. So Robert's going to help me get this done so that it's fair. You know, some of you have a gift to gab, and others have to make sure they can get in 2 gabs. So we'll try this and see how it works. And we're going to start with you, Lynn. Ask you the first question. Yes. And the first question, and these are telling questions. Whoever put them together, I didn't, but I love them because the first one is going to ask you a very hard question. You know, African Americans are more likely than whites to receive the death penalty for similar crimes. Do you support or oppose the death penalty? And you do know that there's a ballot measure coming up in death penalty. Do you oppose or support it? There is No, I want you to make sure you understand this question, because if you answer it wrong, you dead meat up here. Do you support or oppose the death penalty, and it is going to be on the ballot in November, to eliminate it?
Well, you know, whatever you do in this world, we ought to be doing it fairly, that's for sure. And so, you know, it is a tough question, but I do support the death penalty for certain crimes. Obviously, when, you know, a young lady is taken out and kept captive for like 17 or 19 years and raped and destroys her life, there's got to be a penalty that fits the crime. And so there are times when that occurs. You know, when Osama bin Laden attacked our country, there was...
It's a 1 minute answer now.
I understand.
Okay.
30 seconds left here.
Okay.
When Osama bin Laden tried to destroy our country and attacked us in New York City and elsewhere, the President of the United States saw fit to send out a team to execute him. And so that was a death penalty, I think, imposed upon him in a rightful way, that we cannot tolerate those people who commit these kinds of crimes, and they're pretty heinous crimes.
Okay, Mr. Jim Frazier?
I support the death penalty only in the factor as a deterrent for egregious and horrible crimes. Children and police officers should only be the reason that we use that process. I don't believe it is a useful tool in other crimes that should not be punished in that format. But children and police officers, I firmly believe that it should be used as a deterrent. So that's my stand on that issue.
Gene?
Thank you. We're going to sound like Pete and repeat here. I too support the death penalty in certain cases. And it's a very hard thing to do, to support something that takes somebody's life. And I have given this lots of thought. I have been weighing this, especially with the new ballot measure coming up, because I know we're going to be asked where are we going to stand on that. This is extremely an important personal issue. The death penalty is something that is a very personal process that you have to think about. And as a politician, yes, I will support it in certain manners, in certain ways. Fortunately, with the technology that we currently have, all we can do is hope and pray that we put people away that belong in prison or belong on death row, and not people that are innocent. And that's what I will work for, is to make sure that does not happen.
Ms. Patricia?
Again, I believe in the death penalty when there is violence against children, women. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and I do know that there is a disproportionate impact of certain sentences and death penalty sentences against brown people. And that's very unfortunate that our system has not been blind in every case. In cases where, like I have a friend that I grew up with who was murdered by her husband at age 26, in those cases I would definitely support the death penalty. However, I would support anything that the voters pass. You know, currently we have the law that there should be a death penalty that the voters passed, and in November, if that changes, I would be behind it as well. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mike?
I think we all know that the world's not fair. We have all been at in the position where we've seen the injustice. I have a problem with the death penalty because of the way it's implemented. While I support for the most heinous crimes the death penalty, I have a problem with the cost. I have a problem with its irreversibility. In other words, once you kill someone, they're gone. There's no appeal there. You've made a mistake, you have to live with it. So the cost, the irreversibility, and my faith put me sometimes at odds with the death penalty. I'd like to see something better. I don't want to see it abolished. Thank you.
I'm going to stand prepared for this answer because I wanted to know that I'm a firm believer in my answer. I was very neutral on this until I became a member of the grand jury. Part of the grand jury is to go and look at the jails and the sheriff's jails, the city jails, as well as the Vacaville State Prison. And I am against the death penalty. The data says that it's not a deterrent. We've got to find a better way to be kinder. We have to educate people. But talking and looking at all the data that the grand jury looked at, we found that this is not a deterrent. It's not deterring anybody. It's sad when a police officer is killed. It's sad when a member of our community is killed. But we're going to have to find better ways to reach out and be able to have some kindness so that people can understand that, death is, you don't come back once you're dead. Once again, I'm against the death penalty.
Thank you. That was sobering me up. We'll see what you do. I see BAPAC members have come in. I want to welcome them since I used to be their state president. See some of them in the room. Thanks for being here. Here comes another one. Let's see. I guess we start. You might want to stand up again because here comes another hard one. The Three Strikes Law has led to excessive sentencing by requiring life in prison for nonviolent and non-serious felonies. Do you support or oppose changing the law to require the third strike to be a violent or serious felony? Starting with you, Charles.
Thank you. Once again, this is another issue that has been implemented since, I think it's going on 20 years now, and it has not done anything to stop anyone from doing anything. I think, once again, if you tour the jails, whether it's a county jail or a state jail, you will see that it is not a happy place. Once these people are released, I think they're in worse conditions. I think there's one problem. We have to find out what to do when they're gone. But to answer your question, I don't believe in three strikes either. I believe that if it's going to be the third strike, it needs to be a violent crime. Thank you.
I support the three strikes law, but I believe that some serious reform needs to happen. First of all, one of the problems with the three strikes law is that we did not vote additional money for prisons or for rehabilitation programs or for helping people reintegrate into society, and that's what we really need. We need to work on that recidivism. Secondly, somebody should not be going to prison for the rest of their life for stealing a piece of pizza. Okay? That's baloney. Everybody knows it. Everybody groans when that happens. I would support the reform of three strikes. And I think that our prison system right now cannot afford to continue to maintain the levels. And you're seeing the governor foist upon cities and counties to store criminals in our cities. I think that's a problem also. So thank you very much.
I spoke, when I was in law school, I spoke against the implementation of a three strikes law because at the time I knew that there would be this problem of, incarcerating so many young men, and that's in fact what happened. And it took away from education, it took the focus away from channeling money into education or to other trade programs or programs that would deter youth from getting into problems that could lead to, life in prison. There are better ways to deal with people who are going to be habitual offenders and, offenders that are going to be of very aggravated and heinous crimes. So I think that there should be a reform. There shouldn't be a three strikes law as it's currently applied. And I think it should be done for only very violent offenses.
This is a simpler one than the first question. Thank you.
They get better as we go
Yes,
along.
there should be a reform to the three strikes law. It's definitely weighted in the wrong direction. Those that voted for the three strikes law did not intend for it to be what it has turned into. And I definitely would support a change to the three strikes law.
You're going to hear it again. I am a firm believer that reform is necessary. It was actually intended as a deterrent. If you do the crime, you're going to do the time. And we want people to know that, we want to get it out there. There are ramifications for your irresponsible behavior, but we want to make sure that we're doing it fairly. And I agree with most of our panel here that there does need to be reform. We do need to work towards reducing the recidivism rate through processes and make sure that we work with the parole officers and probation departments to make sure that we can fund those processes, to make sure that we get vocational training for our people so that they aren't forced to try to commit these crimes. So I am for reform, but we also have to create solutions to make sure that this doesn't happen also. We have to be part of the problem and take it up and make sure that we're doing something about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I also support reform for the three strikes law. Obviously, it's not working, and one of the reasons it's not working is if you have already committed 2 crimes, been incarcerated, get out, you're oftentimes sent out with a couple $100 and on your way, no opportunity for a job, no opportunity for even finding yourself a place to live. And so many of those people are homeless and wandering around and often need food. And it doesn't make sense that we send people to prison for, as Mike said, stealing a piece of pizza. We certainly need to reform this law. And I would say that sometimes maybe it causes people to react in the opposite direction on their third time that they're committing a crime. They might, in fact, want to commit a more violent crime in trying to escape or prevent them from being detained. And so I don't see it as a good law. I think we need to actually reform it.
I want to compliment them all for having the right answer on 3 strikes. So far, the right answer by all the candidates. Okay, you get a chance to wax a little bit on this one. And I'm going to start with the 2 in the middle, starting with Ms. Hernandez, and then I'm going to take you 2, and then I'm going to take the 2 on the end, and then I'm going to reverse that when I come back. So see if we can get this going. So here's a question you'll love. Low-income school districts have difficulty attracting high-quality teachers because they tend to pay lower salaries. As a result, our children suffer. What would you do to help low-income school districts attract high-quality teachers?
This is such a timely question because just yesterday, the city of Beverly Hills has implemented a new law that would prevent any out-of-district transfers. And of course, people try to go and get the best education. It's unfortunate that poor kids, such as myself, don't have the resources available because we have low property taxes. Property taxes are the foundation of schools. I mean, that's what fuels them. And it shows that there's a big divide in this society now. It's the have and have-nots. We would have to respect the teachers as professionals, just like doctors and lawyers, and by rethinking how we look at the profession and make sure that the teachers are also culturally sensitive to the areas in which they teach, that would help start this process of reform in the educational system.
Okay, Jean.
Teaching is an honorable career. My daughter's a teacher. We sent her to school. She had a master's degree. She's teaching in Yuma, Arizona. She's teaching in a very poor area. She went there because she thought it was the right thing to do. She went there because they showed her respect. They wanted a young person coming to their community. They gave her the ability to have housing. They gave her the ability to have good benefits. And my daughter's a type 1 diabetic. She can't teach in California because it will lay her off, and then she won't have health care. The way to bring good teachers into the area is to find a way to fund local schools where the state of California can't take the money away on their beckoning whim. We need to find a way to give stipends to our teachers to bring in housing, and we need to figure out a way to remind the folks that are out there that our teachers are professionals and they're due the respect that is coming to them.
Okay, where am I going? Mike? Am I going to one there? Mike?
That's good with me. I think that there is a problem with our education system in the K through 12 system right now. I think that it is difficult for low-income schools to attract the best and the brightest talent. But I think that right now the state has been pushing a lot of mandates on what has to happen inside a classroom that has nothing to do with how well your kids are going to do when they graduate. I think there's a lot of mandates about policy that need to be removed. I think we need to focus on getting our kids the education that will put them to work, will get them into college, will get them moving. We need to put more teachers in the classroom, and we need to have less administrators in the central office. We don't need a Taj Mahal. What we need is a reasonable way to keep teachers in the classroom. And whether that's bonuses, whether that's an open market system, we need to look at this problem hard. Thank you.
Yes.
I can point to some models, but before I talk to the models, your pastor is on the board of the school board. You need to attend the school board meetings. Attending the school board meetings is very important. That's where they're making all the decisions. They made a decision to have 2 years of math down to 1 year of math because the school board thought that was one of the best situations that a student could have, even though a lot of people came up and said, you know, you need to know fractions, you know, you need to know percentages, you need to know a lot of things. It really happens at the local level. You've got to go to the school board meetings because that's where they're making these decisions. We've got to figure out where the lottery money is going. The lottery is supposed to pay for our education. There are models out there. If we look at the Peace Corps, there's an organization called Coding for America that goes into organizations and codes for them. Intel has started a program where they will give teachers home loans. But I think most of the answers are right here in this room. I think we could figure this out, and then I could bring these ideas to other assembly people, and I think the counties all around here are suffering the same problem, and I think the only way to do this is to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this is really a tough question because small school districts that really have a tough time right now. I think there's probably going to have to be some consolidation of school districts, first of all. Here in Fairfield and Vacaville area, there are 3 school districts, and I think that needs to be taken a look at to provide probably a better way in having a greater say in the education of the children. I've been to schools on the average of once every 2 weeks over the past 14, 15 years, and the teachers are doing a great job. But many of the things that come down from the state are really difficult to follow and try to push education because it's not one size fits all. And we're in an agricultural area, for example. We need to make sure that we have some of those kind of things in it. What does this have to do with teachers? Teachers are really the crux of it. Maybe we ought to think about combining the city councils and the school boards again and go back to that point where the city is kind of responsible for the schools as well. I think that might have some merit in these tough times of economics.
Thank you. I am endorsed by Tom Torlakson, our Superintendent of Public Instruction for the state of California, and I want to be in Sacramento to help him on his quest for making our education system successful. We're 47th in the nation in California in our school systems, and that needs to change. We need to reprioritize our needs in California. Our biggest expense on the budget is education. Every time they look to make cuts, they cut from our education. It's not fair. It's not fair to our children. We promised them better than that. In my community foundation, we've gone out and raised money on the short term for our teachers to provide them gift cards for instructional materials. We, in a short-term basis, as leaders in our community, must help our teachers by increasing their funding mechanisms so that they can do the job that they deserve to have. And so I'm all for making sure that we correct that process. But it is going to be my priority to help Superintendent Tom Torlakson be successful in his quest. Thank you.
Only one of you answered that question. I just want to point that out. And one of you answered it with a term that I was going to ask for clarification, because you used a term that's called open market. And that certainly raised a flag in my mind of what you meant by open market, to get the best teachers. But the question specifically was, how were you going to get teachers to teach in low-income schools where minorities are, because they make less money? And so I just want to point that out. Now, I do listen for a living. I'm going on to the next question, though. They flunked that one, except one person. This one is on education again. And I'm going to start down here. Maybe you two would hear the question really well and answer it. Then I'm going down on the end. And maybe by the time we get to the end, Charles will know the question, and then we get to the middle, we don't know what they'll, well, I've heard by the time we get to the middle. But Ms. Hernandez will be last. The question, working class people are being priced out of higher education. Do you support or oppose limiting the power of the University of California Regents to increase tuition?
Well, you know, I got to tell you that I'm really concerned about the University of California Regents. First of all, I think they get overpaid quite a bit because they're protected by the Constitution. And do I want to limit their ability to do it? Absolutely, I want to limit their ability to raise tuition. Education, as was already said, is that's a basic for the economy and job creation. And that's a simple answer.
I also will oppose any increases in tuition. My daughter will be receiving her doctorate, so the last 10 years I've been paying for her tuition, and I'm glad the Fraser Scholarship Fund is over next month. Also, I have written a letter to recent UC presidents who received a substantial raise, and make almost $500,000 worth of their housing and car allowances is absolutely embarrassing that they would do this. I, as a city council member, make sure that I reinvest my stipend, my salary, into the community. I give half of it to our public library and the other half to our clinic. And I want to lead by example, that these people should be actually going in for the same reasons that all the other educators are in there for, is to improve our education system. And so I will not be supportive of an increase in tuition. Actually, we'll look for the economies to make sure that we make the investment in our innovators and our educators. Thank you.
Okay, Charles?
Anytime our property tax or sales tax wants to be raised, it goes to the people through initiative, and we vote on it. It should be the same thing with education. We need to strip this power from the regents. Number one, everyone will agree that they're overpaid. They have our educational system is seriously a mess. I have 2 children going to college now, and I'm worried. It's very expensive. It's increasingly expensive. If you look at the price of a simple organic chemistry book, $280. It's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to happen, but the first thing that needs to happen is it can't be raised. And if they want to raise it, it has to go to the people. And I would fight for a ballot measure that expressed that.
Gene?
I believe we ought to strip the regents of their ability to raise tuition. It's plain and simple. We've worked under that system for a very long time. It's shown it has not worked. I, too, hope to be off the scholarship bandwagon in a few weeks. In 4 years that my son has been in the university system, I'm paying $4,000 more a semester for him to finish up his education. It's killing the middle class. It's hurting us. I do not agree it ought to go to the people. We, as your elected, are the folks that should be voting on this. We're the ones that should be taking care of this on a legislative basis, and that's how I feel about this.
Okay, Ms. Hernandez. Oh, did I skip you? I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Your choice.
No, your choice.
Thank you so much. First of all, I think we have to invest in our young people. We need to invest in those young adults that are coming up through the system. We need to invest in our children. Education is just so important. we need to also ensure that they have jobs coming out. I don't care how much the regents are paid. I think they're paid too much. I don't know. All right? Kobe Bryant makes a lot of money because he's the best. I'm cool with that. He's the best. I don't know if they're the best or not, but I think we need to look at it. I think that it's time to put some of this common sense controls in about the regents and about how they're proceeding with these increases. It all comes down to, though, state budget. One way or another, if the state budget was balanced, we wouldn't be talking about increases. And that's the legislature's problem. That's the people in Sacramento that need to be fixed. Thank you.
The UC Regents should not have the ability to raise tuition. As an alumni of the UC system myself, I unfortunately did not have a scholarship fund from my parents because they couldn't afford it. I had to go to college through loans. And it was very expensive. So I can just imagine kids these days that are lucky enough to get into a UC or a state school. I don't know how they can afford it. And that is why the banks are getting so rich off of the high-interest loans that they're, handing out to young kids. When kids get out of college now, they have incredible debts, same as a mortgage. So they're already being cut out of the home buying process, and they can't start their own families because they have to live with mom and dad because they can't afford to even get a job, or they can't have a job, and so they can't afford their student loan payments, which is really unfortunate. And also the UC Regents, just to point out, one of the members is one of the ones that in the past had implemented the not to use any affirmative action to allow for kids to get into college.
You talking about Ward Connolly? Ward Connolly?
Yes.
Ooh. Is he still on?
No, but it came from the...
Hope he's not still on. All right. We're going to go straight down the line this time. This is a short answer. I'm going to start down there at that end. The next time I'm going to start this end. Okay. Government jobs have helped build the black middle class. Do you support or oppose privatizing public employee jobs?
That's a pretty broad question. I know that since the librarians are here, that a lot of cities want to privatize librarians. They want to bring in, privatizing librarians is a bad idea. Privatizing a lot of the, I'm thinking of the answer because, when it comes to government, there are a lot of different sectors. And I don't want to give a broad yes or a broad no, but if I was going to have to give either one of them, I would say yes. Privatizing, the main argument about privatization is it says it saves money. And there's data on both sides. But the data that I've looked at that I believe in says that it does not save money. One of the things that we have to look at is the pension plans. The pension plans are mostly coming from the higher tier, the people who are...
Well, you have to stop. You way into that answer. We got you oppose, right?
No, I said I was for it.
You for?
I'm sorry. Repeat the question.
I'm not. You blew it. You don't get a second bite. I was going to give you a chance to clarify, but now you try to get a second bite. Next. You can clean it up in one of your free times.
Right now, budgets are getting squeezed. All right, we have a lot less money out there available at the government level. That means at the city, state, and county level. People are looking for solutions, and privatization looks attractive on the outside. Whether it is or not, I can't tell you the bottom dollar answer here. But I'll tell you what, when your budget's cut and it's the difference between laying off police officers or looking at privatizing your parks and recs, you need to be able to look at everything on a city level. On a state level, they're definitely looking at how to make do with less. That's our problem right now, how to make do with less. We need to solve the budget problem before we have this conversation. Thanks.
I'm against contracting out public sector employees. I was a former public sector employee. While I was in law school, I worked at the sheriff's department, and it helped me, make a living and buy my first home and get through school. As a chief negotiator for public employees now, it has brought the middle class. It has created a middle class with pensions and good-paying jobs and health benefits. And I don't believe in privatizing. A lot of people say, well, we need to run public services like a corporation. Public services are not a corporation. The government is not a corporation. So we shouldn't run public services as a corporation, or else all public services would be cut, because in a corporation, all they care about is making profits. And this is about people. We need to continue to maintain these services.
Keep your demonstrations to yourself. We hear you.
Nobody does it better for the public than public employees. It's that plain and simple. When I got hired in the communities I worked for, I dedicated my life, I dedicated my waking hours to serving the people of the communities that I worked for. Private industry, as Patricia says, has one bottom line. That's to keep other people happy, and it's not always the people that they work for. There is no way I will ever support and go against the working people of California.
As a member of the middle class and worked with my hands for 34 years, I understand the value of public employees. I would never support privatization. It's a process that, as a city council member, we're only successful in this economy because of our public employees. If we were privatized, we would be shut down for profits. Well, we're a customer service organization, and because we are a customer service organization, our public service employees are something that we should value and support. We're looking forward to working through this process with the budget, but our public service employees are number one in my book.
Well, experience will tell you that I do not support converting to and doing privatization. I was on the council for 14 years, mayor is 8 years. We never privatized one thing, and I'll tell you why. It's because the service is the best. We have an ambulance service in Vacaville. It's the only city in our county, and probably in the region, that has our ambulance service associated with the fire department. We have our own paramedics. It is the best service that is available anywhere, and there's absolutely no reason to even think about privatization.
Thank you all very much. And now I'm going to start this end and go straight down. And the question is related to the one we just talked about, and it's about public employees' pensions and the fact that pension funds have been vilified. A lot of struggle on trying to take away pensions that employees have earned. And what our group would like to know is, how would you balance the legitimate retirement needs of public employees with other budgetary needs?
Well, pension reform, unfortunately, is on the way, because the current system is just unsustainable. There was a time when money wasn't put in by cities because the investments made by CalPERS were so good. But that's changed with this economy, and it's going to fail unless there's something done. It will not be done to current employees because they have negotiated contracts that are locked in stone. But I think there's going to be a two-tier system come out of all this eventually. It's just a matter of time that the system is unsustainable. There's not enough money coming into the system. And so there's an unfunded liability that is going to eventually just envelop us. And so, again, current employees will be protected, but those in the future, it's very likely that there's going to be a new system have to come into play.
Thank you. I look at pension reform as from the top down. Most of our public workers make about 50% of what their salary is in their retirement, and the public has a big misconception that they're overdoing it. Administratively, we have to stop these managers and administrators from pension spiking. That's a big reform that we have to look at. Also, in the CalPERS system, we have to quit making placement agents rich for these investments that are from our CalPERS system. And also, we have to have an investment oversight to protect the CalPERS system in STRS. There's an $85 billion debt with CalPERS and a $65 billion debt with STRS. So I'm looking forward to working through the processes, but to also public outreach that it's not the public workers, it's administratively that's been taking advantage of the system.
California is not broke because of public employees. Public employees were there, they negotiated, they received, and I don't call it a pension, I call it a retirement. I am a retiree out of the PERS system. I know what it took for us to get there. I know what I gave up. I know what all my friends and the people who have been working for the people of California gave up in pay raises, gave up in lots of many issues through the bargaining process. Does it need changed? Yes, it does. But it needs to be changed at a legislative level. Being changed at the ballot box by the people of California is not the way to do it. We need to work with our labor unions. We need to work with our public employees to find a fix for this problem before some crazy puts a ballot measure on and takes it away from us. It's the wrong thing to do. Once again, it's attacking the working people.
I'm against any legislative change to the pension system. Any changes to pension should be negotiated. That's what I do for a living, so my position is that it has to involve all the employee organizations so that employees also have a right and a voice in the process. Another thing is that I think we tend to forget that the reason that pensions are underfunded right now is because of the stock market. And the stock market downfall was created because of all of these investors through the banks that were playing with this money, playing with mortgages, and they caused a financial disaster in this country. And so now all these people, or the media, is focusing on employees when the focus isn't there. They're trying to find a scapegoat. So pensions, as they currently are unsustainable based on numbers. However, when the markets come back up, it'll start stabilizing.
Couple things. We promised a pension, we have to deliver a pension. That's all there is to it. Secondly, it isn't the workers' fault that there's a pension problem. Not at all. It's the politicians' fault. It's people that sit in my chair that have promised the world and haven't figured out how to fund it. That has to stop. There has to be a fix in Sacramento. Hopefully it won't be at the ballot box. I think that could be disastrous. But I support Governor Brown's pension reform, and I think it's a good start. Thank you.
One of the problems with the pensions, obviously, is city councils voted on these pensions, and if you look at the pensions of the people who are in administration positions, they're paid the highest. There is a website out there, over 100,000. There are people who are now collecting pensions at $300,000 a year, and they're totally retired. This is the real problem. It's top-heavy. What happened is city councils and board of supervisors said, yeah, we're going to give our administrative people all this lucrative pensions. This is the real problem, and so one of the things they want to do is they want to attack the small person, the small pensioner, and I think this is what we really have to protect. Yes, it has to be a two-tier system. Once the new employees come in, we're going to have to figure out what is that going to be. Is it going to be 2% or 2.5% at 55 or 60? I mean, this is things that are going to be a conversation, but I think the thing we need to protect is really the rank and file. We have to protect their pensions because obviously, the people making $300,000 are not going to want to give most of that up, so we're going to have to fight for that.
Charles. Getting a little long-winded as we go along here. Not seeing the stop sign. Is that what he does with everyone?
Do I get a ticket?
Yes, you just got a ticket. Okay, we're going to shift to healthcare. And we would like to know from each of you, whether or not you recognize that President Obama's affordable health care will help millions of Americans with pre-existing conditions obtain health insurance. And if you know that, do you support our proposed implementation of the Affordable Care Act? And I think, start with Charles, maybe we can keep him in line, and that's the way to go. Come straight down. Go ahead, Charles. Charles, watch your timer, please.
I sure will. I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit enthusiastic. I don't like everything in the Health Care Act. There's a lot of things in there that I do not like. I'm really a single payer. I would like to see single payer, but we're going to have to vote on something. And though that I'm not happy with all the provisions of the health care, I would vote for it.
I think we have a real problem with the President's health care proposal, and I'll tell you why. First of all, our children right now owe, from the day they're born, $44,000 to the government because we're running at such a deficit. Now, this is really a federal question. You know that. State government, we're not going to really impact this. But my opinion is that if we had our financial house together, we could do a lot better. I think that we need to address a health care crisis in this country, and I think that there's a lot of ways we can do that. I don't particularly support the current Obamacare. Thank you.
I support President Obama's Health Care Reform Act. I believe that if the Supreme Court strikes it down, I would still push for single payer here in California. We cannot allow insurance companies to continue to drive health care in this country. That has made it extremely expensive. No one is looking at the culprits. They're always looking at ways to blame someone else. In this case, it's President Obama. And his idea is a perfect idea. You know, I grew up, like I said, poor. I was born in a county hospital. I always used county clinics growing up. And now I represent physicians that staff all of the county clinics and hospitals, most of them in Northern California. So I am completely in support of having single payer or something like it here in California.
I too support the Affordable Health Care Act. Both my children are type 1 diabetics. My daughter turned 23 1 month before they were required, they, meaning my insurance company, who had been taking care of her since birth, 1 month, and they stopped her health care. She's an insulin-dependent diabetic. They stopped health care on her, and I asked them why, and they said, because we don't have to. They did not care about what was going on. I ended up having to spend lots of money for 1 month of health care to keep her healthy. We have problems. The issue is that we can't just dump on the insurance companies. We've got to be able to work with them. And I believe that they are willing to work with us. Single payer is going to be something that we're going to have to look at in California. I don't trust the Supreme Court. I think they're going to come down with a decision that's going to hurt, once again, the people of this country, and specifically the people of this state.
I do support the President's Affordable Health Care Act. I do want the opportunity to be able to opt out for single payer. I think single payers are our best way to go to support our families and protect our social safety net. My family, we support 50 hospitals in the state of California, feeding families there with their children in crisis. We've fed over 100,000 families in the last 7 years. So I'm looking forward to another process to make sure that we support people with pre-existing conditions and taking away the ability for insurance companies to deny the ability to health care. And I'm looking forward to supporting the President wholeheartedly.
Well, I'm very familiar with the healthcare programs that we have at Travis Air Force Base. TRICARE for Life I have, and Medicare. And I went through having a couple of stents put in my heart a couple of years ago, and my wife had cancer all last year. And I will tell you that the cost of those healthcare programs are just huge, absolutely huge. In fact, it's way out of control. I do agree about the insurance business. We need to take a hard look at that, as well as the fact that people who have pre-existing conditions and can't get health care is really atrocious. We need to do something about that. So there are parts of the President's health care bill that I support, but there are many parts that I also have problems with. And so I'd like to see the thing reopened and hashed out and see whether we can't come to a better understanding of where we are with it, because right now a bill was passed without anybody even reading the thing, and that seems to be atrocious. We need to make sure we know what's in there, and we're finding out little piece by little piece that it's not all it's supposed to be.
All right. I'm going to ask, since you've already talked a little bit about this question in this previous question, I'm going to ask you for a yes or no. And if you can't give me a yes or no, then you got 2 seconds to say what your qualification is that you can't give me a yes or no. This is, health insurance premium increases have outpaced inflation. Do you support or oppose giving the state insurance commissioner power to regulate health insurance rate increases? Yes or no? Oh, this will be hard for Charles. Yes or no?
No, I don't support giving more regulatory power to the government.
Yes, I support.
Yes, I support it. Yes, I support Dave Jones.
No, I don't.
That was clean. Got a good choice there. See, you all were starting to get your answers too convoluted. I thought I'd clear the air and have you just tell us how you really feel with one word. We got it. One more yes or no. Because this is not anything that you should be pontificating on. You should know where you stand on this. Although we made great strides in this country, the playing field still is not level. Do you support or oppose affirmative action? Yes or no? Starting right here. Oh. Let me see. Say Y-E-S or N-O? If you have to have a minute. Because you know what? I'm going to come back to you. Yes or no?
Well, no, I just want to say, there's been some positive things that have happened with affirmative action. So I have supported some. I'm not so sure that it always has worked. Sometimes there's reverse discrimination. And I think we've got to be careful that we all understand.
You would have been better with a yes or no. Next.
Simple answer, absolutely.
Yes?
Well, I'm going to take a little bit of time too. This isn't a clear yes or no answer. Do I support it? Yes. Are there times where we need to look at it, what it's going to do, how it's going to affect what's happening in our world? Yes, we have to look at that also. This is not a black and white world, we know that. But affirmative action has proven it's a good thing, and it has brought people up, it's brought them up by the bootstraps, it's given people great jobs and opportunities.
Ms. Hernandez.
Yes, I am affirmative action.
I don't support affirmative action. I think any time that the government tells you how many of something or other has to happen, I think that you run into problems. I think that the smart answer is we need to treat everybody completely equal.
Charles.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Well, the chair lady up here, the moderator is not supposed to have an opinion, but I can tell you the world is black and white for some of us. This question I'm throwing in because the 11th question I want you to answer in your close. The 10th question was left out, and I think it's important for everyone here to know where you stand, because the question that I'm going to ask you has a lot to do with your view on government services, and who should pay for it. So the question is, do you support the governor's proposed tax initiative? And let's start with Ms. Hernandez.
I support the governor's tax initiative. One part that I did not like is an across-the-board increase to our taxes, because an across-the-board increase always hits the working middle class the hardest. And that's because we're always at the store, we get hit with taxes at the gas pump. I mean, it's something that doesn't really reach people who, have a lot of disposable income. And so that's the only part that I don't like. I think I would have supported a tax initiative that focused mainly on very high earners in California, because, one, they can afford it. So an across-the-board increase to all taxpayers, although it's minimal, it will disproportionately affect working-class people. But, so I'm for it. I wish I would have seen a higher percentage for the higher income earners.
Okay, Mike?
Excellent. Sorry, but the legislature spent your money, all right? They spent your money, and now they want to raise your taxes. The sales tax initiative that Jerry Brown has out there will impact everybody in this room, and it is disproportionately regressive on you. The tax the rich philosophy will tax people in this room right now. You think it's going to be the rich, but you better read it, because it's going to tax you. It's because they spent your money on their projects, not on you. Thank you.
Okay, no, I'm not going to call on you next. I'm gonna Oh, go ahead. You're anxious to answer that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, the initiative process has put us here. You, the good people, are going to be able to choose whether you think it's a good idea to have these tax increases or not. One of my jobs is, whether you pass it or you do not pass it, I have to find ways to stop this expenditures, and I have to find ways to stop the deficit. So for me, I'm neutral. I'm going to wait for when the people decide what to do, and while they're deciding, I have to come up with solutions and innovations so that we can press on. Because if it passes, deficits and expenditures are still going to happen. It's just a Band-Aid. If you do not pass it, expenditures and deficits are still there, and we're going to have to work really hard in finding creative, innovative ways to stop this. Thank you.
Okay, Gene?
I don't support the governor's tax plan. And the reason I don't is because it's not going to fix the problem. It's going to put money into Sacramento, and once again, when I'm in Sacramento, or any of us in Sacramento, and you've heard this, we're there to be there for you. What I do support is we're going to put money into education. Let's do it at a local level. Let's make it available to the school district where the state can't take it away. My biggest reason is I don't support it is because it does not fix the problem. We have healthcare problems for the poor. We've got social services problems. We've got mental health problems. We've got law enforcement problems. We have got problems up and down this state. And this measure only goes towards really one single thing, and it is education. Education is important, but there's ways for us to work at our local levels where, once again, the state of California can't get their hands on it and take it away.
I do support the governor's tax measure. I'm a little bit disappointed in the compromise. I was hoping that more money would go to education, but we do have a bigger problem in local municipalities. In my city, we have a balanced budget of 35% reserve. We haven't touched our police or code enforcement. I want to be that person to go up to Sacramento and take my 34 years as a working person and also 22 years in business to make sure that we're using balance-based performance budgeting processes and make sure that we're going to use the money wisely. And in doing so, I think I can be that voice for you up in Sacramento. The governor, we have a revenue problem right now. I'm a fire commissioner in my city, and we have a revenue because assessed evaluations are down, and we need to help. And so we're going to need to pull up our bootstraps a little bit this year coming forward, but it is up to the voters, and whichever the way the voters decide, I will support and work through the process. Thank you.
I oppose this tax increase measure primarily because businesses are leaving. All you got to look here in Fairfield, you see Copart MV Transportation have left. Who else you want to chase out of the state? Not only that, but when you tax the rich, they're just going to pass those costs on down to you. We're seeing that already. Just go to the grocery store and you'll find out how much more it costs to buy groceries. So anytime you're willing to tax people who have the money, they're going to pass that on down. And it's going to affect people who are on fixed incomes and those people who are poor. And so it is not a good program. And not only that, but at the same time he's raising taxes, he's also raising the budget revenues that he's spending. He wants $7 more billion this year to spend on what? On the state, as was already said. So I definitely oppose it. It's not a good thing. It's going to affect the poorest people and those on fixed incomes.
Okay, it's time for your closing statement, and there was a question here that I think you can fold into your closing statement, and that is why should we vote for you instead of your opponent? And I'm sure that if you were a good closer, you were going to tell us that anyway. And we're going to close in the reverse order. So who can count from 6 to 1 in reverse? Number 6.
Thank you. For the last 3 years as an elected official, I have walked the walk and talked the talk. I have brought $83 million in regional transportation money. I have brought a clinic to my community. I have brought a special needs playground to the community for the 6,000 children in our community that didn't have a playground where they could play with their siblings. I have worked tirelessly for my communities, and I would like to do that on a larger footprint with the ability to protect our social safety net, work for the working people. I want to be that representative where we're working together, where I can be reached at any time to address your concerns and work through the problems with your elected leaders. I have walked the walk, like I said. It's not that I want to go up there and be a bureaucrat. I want to go up there and stop the political bickering that's going on up there and work on the budget, education, our Delta. There's so many things that, as a businessman, I think I can bring forward to you. I do have all the elected leaders supporting me for this. They know I've been up there the last 2 years working on a bill for my community. It's called SB 536. It was a bill to redirect property tax increment to the City of Oakley. City of Oakley is 12 years old. It has a $12 million a year budget, and I was able to secure $3 million a year coming back to Oakley every year. One of the things I'm very proud of with this bill is we made education and public safety whole, and so they were fully funded. I really like to do this process. I enjoy helping people, and through my community processes, I feel I have the voice of the public that I can represent. Thank you.
I want to apologize for tripping over the privatization question. One of the problems is, to be honest, most cities have privatized landscaping, the streetlights, Parks and Rec, numbers of consultants. If you ever look at their budget, you'll be able to see that. And I just wanted to be honest. You know, they're looking at privatizing the post office as well. I mean, it's really coming forward. I don't like the idea. I want to fight for it. But I think you have to know that it's out there, and there is a wave of people pushing it. And I'd like to be able to push back as well, but I think you need to be informed because I'm going to need your help. I do go to Sacramento. I've gone to a lot of the assembly meetings. They produce this thing. It's called the Assembly Daily File, and then there's a Senate Daily File. This tells you everything that's happening. I went on the 25th. All these are initiatives and meetings that people are going to and discussing it. They're discussing it in these little small rooms, trying to get these bills passed. They're arguing in the hallway. They're eating lots of red meat. They want to push these things forward, and there's no connection between me as an assembly person and you, the people I'm representing. And I want to close that gap. I want to close that gap so that you know this actually exists. That they actually have data that's going on up in Sacramento. So if you want to be involved and want to know what's going on, and there's an issue, then you'll be able to at least know that it exists. And if you don't want to be part of the process, then you can opt out. But I want to make sure that at least you have that decision. If you vote for me, that's the only difference that I have between my fellow members. You're nice, kind people, but I'm really fighting for participation. Thank you for your time.
Number 4?
I'm going to do a Charles and stand up.
The trend.
The trend. Thank you, Charles. The reason I ran... No, thank you, Jim. All this help.
They're helping you.
Yeah, they are. I need all the help I can get sometimes. The reason I am running, the reason I'm going to win this race is because I'm not here for me. This is not about Gene Gant. This is about the people that I'm walking with, the people I'm talking to, the folks in the community that are coming up to me and say, "We love what you've done. You've been there for us. You've been a public sector person. You have given your life, your career to what happens in our communities." I've been so proud to do what I have done, working with youth, being involved in the community in so many different ways. This is about you. This is about touching and reaching out to the people of the 11th Assembly District. This is not about me. I'm not looking for a job. I'm looking to go to Sacramento to engage folks, to be part of a solution, not part of a problem. I have been to Sacramento. I know I can work with both sides of the aisles. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or if they're Democrat or if they call themselves an independent, because I've done it. I've done it for the last 20 years, working bills, working with folks, getting issues through the state legislature. I plan on continuing doing that. To me, this is a very important time for this special district that we all have. We have many issues that we have to address that we didn't talk about today, that we've talked about in other forums. All I can do is ask you to go back, talk to the folks that you know, work with the people that you know, and vote for the person that you feel very comfortable with. We're very lucky to have 6 of us up here. This is great. This is part of democracy. This is a great thing that's happening. And like Chuck said, we're all good people, and I really hope to have your support. Thank you.
You know, first of all, I want to tell you, my name is Len Augustine. I want you to remember that. And the reason I'm running is I'm the only one sitting up here with 20 years of experience. And, you know, people are badmouthing the experience, but that's what it's going to take. Somebody who understands the issues, the water issues, the budget issues, all the other things that are related to this job. And it's what have you accomplished? And I would invite all of you to come to the city of Vacaville and take a look at what we've accomplished there. We have a town square. Its activities are going on even as we speak today. A lot of activities, a lot of people out from all colors and all sections of the community. And we have a diversity fair every year. We want to promote the fact that everybody has an equal opportunity within our city. We've got a new library downtown. We've got a job an unemployment rate which is better than any other city around here. And we are very well positioned, I think, for the future as a result of all the things that we've done. So there are a lot of issues that are part of this particular campaign. And they're not just about who we are. It's about what you've done and how you're going to do things in the future. My leadership experience goes all the way to the Air Force, where I was a commander of the 89th Wing at Andrews that flies this President of the United States. I was the mayor of our city. I was the chairman of the Planning Commission. I've been the chair of the Water Agency. I've been the chair of the Transportation Authority. So I know how to do the things. I know how to get there and talk to them. And I've got great support in Sacramento, got great support in our community. And we need to bring a representative from, quite frankly, from the county of Solano. We have been represented by people from Davis in the past who haven't really seen what we need here. So I ask for your support primarily because I'm not here for myself, quite frankly. As somebody said earlier, I am here to work for you. I was very disappointed in what I've seen happening at the legislature. We need to work together. We need to bring the trade unions in. We need to bring everybody in and have a seat at the table. And I plan to do that. So thank you very much for hosting this today, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you.
The reason that I got into this race is because I'm not part of the club. You know, in politics, it seems like it's become a circus or a fraternity where politicians choose who the next politician will be. The system has gotten so out of touch with people, and that's not the way it should work. It should be people choosing who their representative will be, someone that has the experience. Now, experience doesn't only have to come from local governments. You can have life experience, you can have professional experience, educational experience. I call myself, or I see myself different from the rest of my opponents in that I'm the only one that is not an inorganic intellectual. And that means that I have lived through poverty. I have used education to bring myself out of that poverty. I have worked hard, not only as an employee, but also as an advocate for others. Okay, I have been there. I know what it's like to be a person who is working hard every day and having to make adjustments to my budget because either my husband's being cut at work or I'm not getting a raise. I mean, the reason that I got into this race is my frustration with the political system. Politicians are completely out of touch with us, and we need someone that's going to recognize that and be a voice for us. And just like my parents came here to this country with courage and determination, I also have the courage and determination to be your voice in Sacramento. So I respectfully request your support. Thank you.
She was number...
Just
number 2.
one more.
Has everyone spoken? Okay.
Just me. I'm Mike Hudson. I'm Vice Mayor of Suisun City. Suisun City's had a balanced budget for the 6 years that I've been in office. We've laid off no one. We have not done any furloughs. We have no layoffs, no furloughs, no service reductions. Suisun City has weathered the storm of state budget raids. We know the problems in California. We know that California is broken. We know that there are problems. Today we've talked about jobs, we've talked about schools, we've talked about health care. But what we really care about is our families, we care about our kids, we care about our community. When we start talking about schools, we want our kids to get the best education possible. When we start talking about prisons, we want to make sure that there's redemption in our society. I think that that's vital, that we have a way back. For 20 years, California has gone down the path where we have spent more than we've taken in. We have chronically funded losing programs over and over again. I think it's time that we start taking a really hard look at how we're spending our money in the state. I think it's important that we support our working families. I think it's important that we bring jobs. The number one thing, though, we need to talk about is the jobs in the economy. If we have plenty of jobs, if we have a booming economy, none of these conversations about how do we pay for this and how do we pay for that, they don't come into play. If we get our economy healthy, there will be enough for everyone. I want you to remember that, and I want you to vote for me. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to do 3 things. We're going to thank this panel, and then I am going to make one statement on behalf of the NAACP, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. So he can do whatever else he wants to do. So let's thank this panel for taking the time to be here with us today. And as you can see, you have real choices. A lot of times you have elections and you don't have choices, but you have real choices. And so I know you are going to think long and hard about the answers that you heard today. And as the president of NAACP, I want to thank my branch for doing what we rarely do. You had a civil rights panel discussion here today. There were many issues that you could have put on the table. But what you did was what you don't get paid to do in NAACP. None of us get paid. You asked the questions that are important to our community. So I want to thank you for the way you structured it and for getting the Democratic Party to go along with the civil rights agenda. That took some doing because the Democratic Party has to get candidates elected. And what we find up in Sacramento is that many people come there, but when it gets to the civil rights issue, there's one committee up there called the Criminal Justice Committee, and everything we work on dies in that committee. Because everybody's worried about being soft on crime, worried about the position they're going to take, and we have to worry about the fact that almost everything in that committee affects African American people, disproportionately, because we're the ones who died from the death penalty. Therefore, we are supporting eliminating the death penalty. We're the ones who've been in prison for 3 strikes that is disproportionately implemented in California. It's all about young men and young women that's in prison for these low-level crimes instead of somewhere getting health care and somewhere getting some counseling and somewhere getting their lives back together so that they don't live forever under the penalty of a felony for somebody saying going to get a pizza. That's a good example. So we support you're going to have a chance to vote on the 3 Strikes Initiative. We support Jerry Brown's tax initiative. Jerry Brown didn't create that problem. The economy created a problem, like Ms. Hernandez said, and we have a deficit up there. So when they don't fill the deficit, it's going to be our children, our schools, and our community that will receive the brunt of the cuts that will come because it can't fill the hole. I believe that I don't believe in regressive taxation, I can tell you that. But sometimes you have to put a compromise on the ballot that you can get passed. And I think that if we don't pass Jerry Brown's tax initiative,